So in this tutorial, I'm going to talk a little bit about the scanner option in Java. That's going to be similar to something that is done across many languages. Like in Python, there's input. In BASIC, there's input. In Java, there is scanner, the scanner class. I'm going to basically do one of the assignments in week 2 for this class, and let's do this one, the calorie calculator. I can't say that fast 3 times. It's a simple program where you have a cookie that has 40 cookies, a cookie bag that has 40 cookies, and the information on the bag says that there's 10 servings in the bag and that a serving equals 300. So there's going to be some really basic math. This is a grade school word problem, basically. And we're going to write a simple program that lets the user enter the number of cookies he or she actually ate. So it's going to look like this. How many cookies did you eat? Well, if you put in 3, your calorie intake was 225 calories. So simple as that. It's going to be 2 lines. Now, the book talks about the scanner class, but not very well. And so far, I don't have a tutorial on this, and that's why I'm recording this now. I'm going to go straight into my Java folder from Windows. If you have a Mac, hopefully you have a shortcut to where you're keeping your Java stuff. For example, my Hello World is here. It's in 2 files. There's a Java and a class. I'll go back to the folder, and I'm going to create a new folder here. I can do all of this in the command line just to keep it simple. I'm going to do it in the GUI, and let's say new, and you can't see it, but I'm clicking folder, and the new folder will be the name of the program. I'm going to call it cookie calculator, just cookie calc, like that. I'm going to go inside of the folder, and here I'll create my Java file. Once again, my previous tutorials, I do this in the command line, and I could still do that, but just to keep it simple, I'm going to right click and say new, and there is an option to do a new text document. Mine are associated with Sublime, that's why I see that, but I'll probably do something different. Click on text document. My program will eventually have the same name as the folder, so I'm going to call it cookie calc. Notice the camel case. And instead of being a text file though, I'm going to change the extension to Java. Cookiecalc.java, I'll press enter. It says, do you want to change the extension? Sure, yes. And now it's a different kind of file. It's actually Notepad, because I've done Notepad for Java before. I'm going to right click and open this with Visual Studio Code, just because as much as Notepad is a good enough program, Visual Studio Code actually is more code friendly. So it opens up, and here's my blank program. Now I know that a lot of you use IDEs that do a lot of stuff for you, and that's great, that's fine. Here we could either type or copy and paste, and for that in the class I have added a cheat sheet of sorts. It's here somewhere right there in student resources. Cheat sheet, and there is an important link for this class. I like to copy and paste a lot. W3 Schools Java Scanner tutorial has lots of information. Basically, it tells you how the Java user input, the scanner class, works. And most importantly though, it gives a sample. And I like samples because then I can play with them here, and more importantly, I can select that and copy it. I'll bring it to my new file and I'll paste it in place, and there it is. Now I have the program. If I want to see how this works, I can do that shortly. And what I mean by that is that I can drop into the command line and do something with this. Before I do that, I'm going to make sure that everything that I put in there is saved. It's telling me that something is happening. There's an unsaved file. File save, Control S would work. And now it's saved. I have a shortcut to the command line here, and I'm opening it up. This is my user folder. I know that inside my user folder I've created a Java folder. I'll change to that directory, cd Java. I have 2 directories there, the hello world that I've done before and the cookie calc. Let's change into the cookie calc. And inside I have one file, the cookiecalc.java. Now since I already have Java installed in the system, I can try to compile it. And I shouldn't expect any errors because this was just copied and pasted. This is just a regular program that does the scanner. So I'll say Java C for compile and compile the cookiecalc.java. I press enter, I get no errors. Let's see what happened. That created a new class based on main because the code that I copied has a main class. Going back here, let's see what happens when I run. Let's say Java and then the name of the program, cookiecalc without the Java. Press enter and I get an error. Class not found exception cookiecalc. Because once again, although I have brought in this program and it's supposed to work, the sample had a main class and it's expecting to find a cookiecalc because that's the name of the program. So let's fix that really quick. I'll go back into my editor. And what's happening in the program is importing the utility for scanner. The scanner class has been brought in, and then it declares a class called main. Here, let's change this just for this sample. Rather than working with just a class, make this a public class. Some editors might give you an error if you don't have at least one public class. So instead of main, I'm going to call this cookiecalc, like the folder and the program with the camel case. Then it says public static void main string args. Can't avoid that. That'll be just everywhere. I'm going to make some quick changes here. The scanner class, basically, it brings in a new variable. In this case, it's saying my object. That's what the W3 Schools likes to use. I like to use scan instead. So I'll change that my object to scan. I'll change the other my object to scan just to keep it parallel there. Make everything the same. It says scanner scan is new scanner system in. We've used system out before. That's how we output information. That's how we print something. And it's going to ask for the username. And notice the print line. It's going to enter username and then go to the next line and ask for it there. And then it's going to ask for a string that's called username. And it's going to scan the next line that is going to be put in by the user. This is important because this is a string, so it's going to give us, it's going to check for the next line. Notice how Visual Studio Code is giving us information as we hover on top of things. And then it's going to print and username is and go to, actually this will not go to the next line, but it's going to concatenate the username variable once it's done. I'm going to save this. File save or Control S. I'll be pressing Control S from now on. And let's go back to the command line. And let's try to compile this again. Java C cookiecalc.java. Press enter. And now I get no errors because the classes are playing nice together. Get a directory. I now have a class. That means that this is my program that has been compiled. And let's try to run it. I'll see Java cookiecalc. I don't expect this to be the cookie calculator program because we haven't written anything. This is the sample from W3 Schools. Enter username and I'll say F. Rodriguez. And it says username is F. Rodriguez. So I have successfully implemented a scanner class into a program that works. Now let's make it work with what we need. And I'm going back to this browser. I'll close that and I'll go back into the assignment that we actually want to work on, which is the cookie calculator. And so let's do a little bit of math here. A bag of cookies holds 40 cookies. Let me open up something to keep track of what I'm talking about. Let me get a sticky note. And I'll write some notes on it. It opened up in a different window, but let me bring it in. Like I said, this is basically grade school math. It's not quite algebra just yet. It could be, and it might be because we're doing it in a computer. But we have a bag of cookies. One bag of cookies has 40 cookies. And then the calorie information in the bag says there's 10 servings in the bag. So one bag has 10 servings. And each serving has 300 calories. So one serving is 300 calories. So these are rich cookies. I wrote a program that lets the user enter the number of cookies he or she actually ate and then reports the number of total calories consumed. So sample, if each cookie was 100 calories, then if you have 3 cookies, it would be 100 times 3, right? And that would be 300. Not 3,000, 300. But that's just a sample. Let's figure out. Let's do the math. One bag of cookies is 40 cookies. That means that if there's 40 cookies in one bag and there's 10 servings there, well, 10 servings, I got 40 cookies. That is 10 servings. So what is 40 divided by 10? And I could take out the calculator just because I'll probably use it in a little bit, but I know that 40 divided by 10 is 4, right? So I'll say then that if one bag of cookies is 40 cookies and one bag has 10 servings, then one serving is not only 300 calories, it's 4 cookies. So my information has been updated. One serving is 4 cookies, and one serving is 300 calories. So if one serving is 300 calories and one serving is 4 cookies, I'm figuring that then I need to get the 300 calories and divide it by 4 cookies, right? So I'll do the math over here, and it's 300 divided by 4. 75. So 75 calories. And I'll just write it down there, although I can remember 75, I think. So that when you enter the number of cookies eaten, and if it's 3, then we're going to write a program that says, well, what is whatever they entered, in this case 3, times 75, and you'll get the number of calories. And I know that this will work because the calculator hopefully will not lie. And if I say, well, what is 75 times, let me erase that, 75 times 3. 75 times 3 is 225. That was bizarre. So 225, and that's what is expected. So I now, by checking that, I know that there's 75 calories per cookie. Going back to the program, which is not here, it's actually in Visual Studio Code. So far, this is the program that comes straight out of the sample. I'm going to start to modify this a little bit more. I have already modified it enough. I have changed the class to be public. I have changed it to match the name of the program, CookieCalc. And I have added a scanner. That's a new scanner. And it's asking for a username because that's what we've been asking it to do. Now, very important, we're dealing with math, so we're not going to be multiplying strings together, or we're not going to be concatenating strings like they do in this sample. We're going to be doing math with them. Another good piece of information that is included in the cheat sheet and in the same link that I already closed, unfortunately, but let me find it again. In my cheat sheet, I'm going to right click and open a new tab so it stays open. Go to the Java Scanner tutorial. We have the sample here, yes, but below it says what are the input types. What we use in our program, it says scanner scan this new scanner system in, and what it's actually scanning for in this line, it says it's looking for a string. We don't want a string. We want an integer, probably, because we're not going to be dealing with 3.5 cookies. We want 3 cookies. Then it's the string is asking for the next line, and the next line is exclusive for string. It's going to read the next string value. If we're going to be dealing with integers, we're not going to be looking for the next line. We're going to be looking for the next integer. So I'll start out by copying this, copy that. You can type it in, of course. And since we're not using a string, we're going to say, well, let's ask for an integer. And it's not going to be username. And let's say this is going to be the number of cookies, right? So let's say cookies eaten. And instead of scanning for the next line, parentheses, it's going to be the next int. Next, capital INT, open and close parentheses. And that's going to be reading the user input as far as how many cookies, right? You read user input, and I'll just note there, number of cookies. And so as I'm asking the question, enter username from the sample, let's change this to the question in the problem. Enter, let me go back, 2 cookies. Enter number of cookies eaten. I'll copy that, Control C, and then replace that. System out, so it's just going to give me the question. If you remember when it asked the question about enter your name, it went to the next line. I'm going to make sure that it's in the same line by adding a space so that it gives me a space and then enough space to put my answer here. But instead of printing line, which goes to the next line, I'm just going to print. Hopefully it'll stick to the question. We have the integer of cookies eaten to be the scan of the next integer input. Then it's going to give me a response, system out, and print line. Print line is fine, but this one is concatenating the username answer from before. We want the answer to be something else. We want it to be your calorie intake was. Copy that. And in here, paste your calorie intake was. I have too many colons. And then it's trying to concatenate the username. I'm going to get rid of that. This is from the sample. Your calorie intake was, and because it's in print line, it's going to go to the next line. I'm just going to print so that it stays in the same line. And as it's doing this, I'll say system.out.print and open the parentheses. And the number of calories is going to be the number of cookies. We said that the number of cookies is cookies eaten. Cookies eaten times the amount of calories per cookie, which we figured is 75. Close the parentheses. And, well, I think maybe this will work. I'm going to save it. File, save. I'll go back into the command line. Now, I just saved those changes, so I still need to compile the program again. I have a main.class from before, and I got an error in that. I'm going to delete that since I don't need it. I have cookiecalc.class from before, cookiecalc.java, the one I just saved. I'll double check that it's saved by going to the editor. It should be saved. And let's try to compile it. I'll go up in my commands until I hit Java C cookiecalc. So let's compile cookiecalc.java again. And I get an error. It's I'm missing a semicolon somewhere. Well, sure enough, because right there, I did not close the line. I'm missing a semicolon. Go back to the program, rather the command line, and let's do a compile. And I get yet another error because, and all you expert Java folks watching this video out there, sorry, because I just willy-nilly put in print open close parentheses. So hopefully by making this correctly, print cookies eaten times 75 with the user outputting the user input. I'll just say the output result and save it and give it one more shot. Java compile cookiecalc.java. No errors this time. I'm crossing my fingers and saying if I do Java cookiecalc, enter the number of cookies eaten. The sample said 3 and the calorie intake was 225. And apparently that should be the right math. So when you're done with this, you can do the same thing that you do in your other assignments, get them all together, .java in class, and make one zip file and turn it in. But more importantly, hopefully you can come back and see this accidental video, by which I mean it's got a couple of problems with it, but that's how you would create a scanner class and get it to work by just pulling sample code and making it work for you.